From the moment the gavel struck, the courtroom fell into a tense silence as all eyes turned to the front, where the judge prepared to address Blake Lively in a moment that would send shockwaves far beyond those four walls. This was not the glamorous, red carpet spotlight she was used to. This was the unfiltered glare of judicial authority cutting through the image she had spent years perfecting. In the space of a few sentences, the judge made it clear that certain actions would not be tolerated. Regardless of fame or influence, the issue at hand was serious and deeply tied to the modern reality of online safety and privacy accusations that personal information belonging to individuals connected to the case had been shared in ways that could put them at risk hovered over the proceedings like a storm cloud. The term being whispered was doxing, a word that carries heavy weight in today's digital landscape, and whether intentional or not, the impact of such a move can be devastating. As the judge spoke, the tension in the room grew thicker. Every pause, every carefully chosen word landing like a stone in still water, rippling outward to the lawyers, the press, and the small audience present for Blake, who has navigated countless interviews, public appearances, and media narratives. This was a rare moment of losing control. The reprimand was not just a passing comment. It was a documented warning, a formal mark in the case history that could follow her into every future legal or professional endeavor outside the courtroom. News of the exchange spread like wildfire, trending across platforms and dominating conversations in studios and living rooms alike. It was more than just a headline. It was a turning point, a reminder that no one, not even the most celebrated figures in Hollywood, are beyond the reach of accountability. The latest chapter in the ongoing legal drama surrounding Blake Lively has taken a turn that many in Hollywood and beyond never saw coming. The tension in the courtroom reached a boiling point when the judge openly reprimanded Blake for actions that were seen as a direct breach of the court's expectations. This was not just any routine hearing. This was a moment that cut through the carefully crafted image Blake has built over years in the public eye, and for many watching from the sidelines, it was a rare glimpse into the consequences that even the most protected stars can face when boundaries are crossed. The incident at the heart of this latest twist revolves around accusations that Blake shared sensitive information about individuals connected to the case, information that was never meant to be made public, the term being whispered in court and murmured in media circles is doxing, a word that carries heavy implications in today's digital landscape. While the court records carefully avoid inflammatory language, the implication is clear. Certain personal details were allegedly exposed in a way that could put those involved at risk. This move shocked not just her legal opponents, but also neutral observers who have been following every development the moment the judge addressed Blake directly. The energy in the room shifted. The gavel had not even come down yet, and the air felt heavier. The judge, in calm yet unmistakably firm tones, laid out why such actions, no matter the reason, could not be tolerated in any legal process, especially one under this much public scrutiny. According to those present, Blake seemed momentarily taken aback, her usual confidence replaced by a silence that spoke volumes. It was a reminder that no amount of fame or influence can shield someone when a judge decides to draw a line. The reprimand was not a passing comment, it was a documented warning that now sits firmly in the official record, a piece of history that could influence every step of the case from this point forward for the public. This was a rare moment where the curtain was pulled back and the rules applied equally regardless of the celebrity involved. In the weeks leading up to this dramatic scene, tensions had been steadily building. The opposing legal teams had been locked in a relentless exchange of motions, filings, and public statements, each side clearly aware that the stakes were not just legal but reputational for Blake. The pressure had been mounting ever since the earliest allegations began to swirl, and every move seemed to be weighed not only in court, but also in the court of public opinion. Her supporters have long argued that she is being unfairly targeted, while critics have claimed that her actions over the years have demonstrated a willingness to use her platform aggressively to protect her own narrative. In this latest controversy, those narratives collided head-on. The accusations of doxing are particularly explosive because in the modern age where personal privacy is increasingly fragile, such actions can carry both legal and social consequences. The judge's comments underscored this reality, making it clear that the courtroom is not a place for such tactics, and that any future missteps could result in far more severe penalties. As the reprimand echoed through the room, the reactions varied. Some observers nodded in agreement with the judge's stance, seeing it as a necessary step to keep the proceedings fair and focused. Others exchanged glances that hinted at disbelief that it had come to this at all in the corridors. Outside the courtroom, whispers spread quickly. Reporters raced to relay every detail, and within minutes the news was trending across social media platforms. The headline, "Blake Lively scolded by judge for alleged doxing," hit feeds worldwide, and the reactions were instant, and polarized fans rushed to defend her, arguing that the portrayal of events was exaggerated or taken out of context, while detractors seized on the moment as evidence that her public image had long been out of sync. With her actions behind closed doors, this moment has also sparked a broader conversation about accountability in the entertainment industry, where influence and connections often blur the lines between personal and professional boundaries. Many are now asking whether this case will set a precedent for how celebrities are treated in court when accused of behavior that could harm others. The legal implications are only part of the story, because in the age of instant news, the optics of such a reprimand can be just as damaging as any official ruling public perception. Once damage can be incredibly difficult to repair, especially in an environment where every detail is dissected, debated, and archived for future reference. The reprimand has also added new layers to the already complex web of relationships surrounding the case. Figures like Justin Baldoni, Taylor Swift, and other industry players have found themselves mentioned in speculative reports, connecting dots and drawing conclusions about alliances, loyalties, and behind-the-scenes maneuvering. None of these connections are officially part of the legal record, but in the world of celebrity news, speculation often fuels the narrative as much as fact. The next steps in the case will be crucial for Blake and her legal team. They must now navigate not only the judge's warning, but also the shifting public sentiment that could influence everything from settlement discussions to the willingness of potential witnesses to come forward. Every action from here on will be scrutinized and every statement dissected. The pressure is immense, and even the smallest misstep could be magnified in ways that would have been unthinkable before social media became such a dominant force in shaping public opinion. Yet for all the drama of the moment, there is also a sense that this reprimand could mark a turning point. How Blake responds both in and out of court will be critical. If she chooses to acknowledge the judge's words and adjust her approach, it might help rebuild some of the trust that has been eroded. But if she dismisses it or doubles down on her previous tactics, the consequences could be far-reaching in the coming days. We can expect to see a flurry of activity behind the scenes, her team likely working to control the narrative. While opponents may feel emboldened by the judge's stance, the media will continue to mine every development for headlines, and the public will watch, closely dissecting each new piece of information for signs of what might come next. The drama shows no signs of slowing, and this latest chapter only ensures that the spotlight on Blake Lively will burn even brighter in the weeks ahead. The aftermath of the judge's reprimand has sent shockwaves not only through the courthouse, but across the entire entertainment industry. The conversation is no longer limited to legal experts or court reporters. It has spilled into talk shows, podcasts, and late-night monologues. Everyone seems to have an opinion on what happened and what it means for the balance of power between celebrities and the justice system. The moment the judge spoke directly to Blake Lively, it signaled to many that the days of untouchable celebrity privilege might be showing cracks. It was a reminder that while fame can open many doors, it cannot guarantee immunity. When the legal process demands accountability, the details of the reprimand have become a focal point of analysis, with some commentators poring over every word and every facial expression from that tense courtroom exchange. Legal analysts have pointed out that a public reprimand from a judge is not something that happens lightly. Especially in a high-profile case, the fact that it was recorded in the official transcript means it is now part of the permanent record, a piece of documented history that could resurface in any future proceedings involving Blake, whether in this case or others. This permanence adds a layer of seriousness to the moment that even her most loyal fans cannot ignore. Inside the industry, whispers have grown louder about whether this event might influence her standing in future projects. Hollywood is a place where reputation matters almost as much as talent, and the perception of impropriety can be enough to sway decisions behind closed doors. Casting agents, producers, and brand partners all watch these developments closely, weighing the potential risks and rewards of associating with someone whose public image is under strain. For Blake, who has built a career not only on acting ability, but also on cultivating a relatable yet glamorous persona, this is a particularly precarious time. Her team will undoubtedly be working overtime to maintain control of the narrative, pushing back against negative interpretations while trying to highlight her accomplishments and contributions. The challenge, however, is that the reprimand is not just a rumor or a piece of gossip. It is a verifiable fact documented and confirmed by credible sources, and that makes it far more difficult to spin or reframe to her advantage. The concept of doxing at the heart of the controversy has only added fuel to the public debate in the digital age where personal information can be weaponized in moments. The idea that a public figure might be involved in exposing such details strikes a nerve with many people. Privacy is a rare commodity, and the fear of having it stripped away resonates deeply across all demographics. Whether or not Blake's actions meet the strict legal definition of doxing is something the court will ultimately address. But in the public's mind, the association alone can be damaging. The optics are powerful, and once an idea takes hold, it can be nearly impossible to shake. Meanwhile, the individuals whose information was allegedly exposed have reportedly taken steps to protect themselves, changing contact details, increasing security, and limiting public appearances. These precautions underscore the seriousness of the situation, reminding observers that behind the headlines are real people dealing with real consequences. This is not just a theoretical debate about privacy rights. It is a lived experience for those directly impacted, and that reality adds weight to the judge's stern words. The media has played a significant role in amplifying this moment. Coverage has ranged from straightforward reporting to opinion pieces that dissect Blake's history and speculate on her motivations. Some outlets have drawn connections to previous controversies suggesting a pattern of behavior, while others have argued that this was an isolated incident blown out of proportion by rivals and critics. Regardless of which interpretation people believe, the sheer volume of coverage ensures that the reprimand will remain in the public consciousness. For some time, the ripple effects are also being felt among Blake's peers in Hollywood. Some have offered subtle shows of support through social media likes or vague statements about fairness and due process. Others have noticeably distanced themselves, declining to comment or avoiding public appearances. With her, this shift in social dynamics is telling in an industry where image and alliances are carefully curated. Any change in who stands beside you in public can be as revealing as any official statement. The judge's decision to address the issue head-on has also sparked conversations among legal professionals about how high-profile cases should be managed. Some argue that the public nature of the reprimand was essential to maintaining transparency and fairness. Others worry that it could inadvertently influence the jury pool or create additional media frenzy that distracts from the core issues at stake. Either way, the event has become a case study in how modern courts navigate the intersection of celebrity status and judicial authority for the general public. The scene has played out almost like a scripted drama, with each new detail adding layers to the storyline people are following. Not only the legal maneuvers, but also the interpersonal dynamics between the key players in the case, the alliances, rivalries, and quiet power struggles that are hinted at in court filings and media leaks. This fascination speaks to a larger cultural appetite for stories that blend real-world stakes with the kind of tension usually reserved for fiction. The question now is how Blake and her team will proceed in the wake of the reprimand. Will they seek to address the issue directly, perhaps offering a public statement, or will they choose to let the legal process unfold without further comment? Each option carries its own risk. Speaking out could allow her to shape the narrative, but it could also open the door to further scrutiny and questions. Remaining silent might avoid immediate controversy, but it risks letting others define the story for her. Whatever choice is made, it will be analyzed, debated, and archived for future reference. The case is still far from over, and there are many chapters yet to be written, but this particular moment will likely be remembered as a defining point in the saga. A turning point where the balance of power shifted ever so slightly away from Blake's control and into the hands of the court and the public eye. As the legal proceedings continue, every motion filed, every witness called, and every statement made will be viewed through the lens of the reprimand. It has set a tone that cannot be undone, a constant reminder of the judge's willingness to intervene and enforce the rules without regard for status or celebrity. The next court date is already being circled on calendars by journalists and fans alike, with speculation running high about whether the atmosphere will remain tense or escalate further. The drama that began with whispered allegations And backroom strategy sessions has now burst fully into the open, and there is no going back to the quiet containment that once seemed possible. What comes next will not only determine the outcome of the case, but also shape the legacy of everyone involved. In the days following the judge's reprimand, Blake Lively found herself at the center of a media storm, unlike anything she had faced before. While her career has seen its fair share of gossip headlines and speculative think pieces, this was something different. This was a concrete moment backed by an official court record that could not simply be brushed aside or ignored. Her team moved quickly behind the scenes, strategizing on how best to manage the fallout. The primary goal was clear limit. The damage, keep the narrative under control and ensure that her public image did not sustain irreversible harm. However, the challenge was immense. The story had already taken on a life of its own, spreading far beyond traditional entertainment news. Outlets, mainstream media networks, political commentators, and even advocacy groups were weighing in on the situation. The concept of doxing resonates far outside the celebrity bubble because it touches on issues of safety, privacy, and trust that affect everyone in the digital age. It is no longer just a niche topic for tech forums, but a global conversation with real-world implications. Blake's critics wasted no time in using the reprimand as proof of what they had long claimed about her approach to conflict, that she was willing to push boundaries in ways that might compromise the well-being of others. On the other hand, her supporters argued that the incident was being exaggerated, taken out of context, and weaponized by those who stood to gain from her downfall. This clash of narratives created a polarized environment where neutrality was rare and every public statement was dissected for hidden meaning. The legal teams on both sides seemed acutely aware that the courtroom battle was being fought in tandem with a public relations war. Each motion filing was accompanied by careful consideration of how it might be perceived outside the walls of the courthouse. This dual battlefield meant that even routine procedural developments were spun into dramatic turning points by a media hungry for updates. Meanwhile, the individuals allegedly affected by the release of private information had reportedly begun preparing their own legal action. Sources close to the situation hinted that civil claims could be filed seeking damages for emotional distress and security costs incurred as a result of the incident if true. These potential cases could add even more complexity to an already tangled legal web, drawing in additional lawyers, witnesses, and perhaps even new public figures who have so far remained in the background. The judge's words continued to reverberate through every discussion about the case, reminding all involved that the court was closely monitoring behavior and willing to step in when necessary. For many observers, this represented a rare moment of balance in a system that is often criticized for giving special treatment to the wealthy and famous. Some legal analysts suggested that the reprimand might embolden other judges to be more assertive when dealing with high-profile litigants, creating a ripple effect that could influence cases well beyond Blake's own as public interest grew. So did speculation about the potential impact on her professional opportunities. While no official announcements had been made, industry insiders were already questioning whether certain projects might be delayed, quietly recast, or shelved altogether. In Hollywood, perception is currency, and even the hint of controversy can make investors and executives nervous at the same time. There was an awareness that scandal can sometimes boost a celebrity's profile, leading to more attention, and in some cases even greater commercial success. The outcome would largely depend on how Blake navigated the coming weeks. Her demeanor and public appearances would be closely watched, as would her social media activity. Each post or comment could either reassure fans and industry allies or further inflame her detractors. So far, she had chosen to remain largely silent, allowing her representatives to issue brief, carefully worded statements emphasizing her respect for the judicial process and her commitment to resolving the matter responsibly. This strategy, while cautious, also risked leaving too much room for others to fill the silence with their own interpretations. In the absence of direct communication, rumors and unverified claims flourished online. Some claimed to have inside knowledge of the circumstances leading to the reprimand, while others speculated about personal tensions between Blake and key figures involved in the case. The lines between fact and fiction blurred as social media algorithms pushed the most sensational content to the top of feeds, creating a feedback loop that amplified the drama. Even further, the stakes were high, not just for Blake, but for the broader conversation about celebrity influence, accountability, and the role of the media in shaping public opinion. If she could weather this storm and emerge with her reputation intact, it would be seen as a testament to her resilience and strategic skill. But if the controversy deepened, it could serve as a cautionary tale for others in similar positions. The tension was palpable in every corner of the entertainment world, from the studio boardrooms to the fan forums and gossip blogs. Everyone seemed to be watching, waiting and ready to pounce on the next development with the next court date approaching. Anticipation grew over whether the reprimand would lead to more formal sanctions or changes in courtroom protocol. Some wondered if additional restrictions might be placed on the sharing of information related to the case to prevent further incidents. Such measures, while intended to protect privacy, could also limit the ability of either side to shape the public narrative. A reality that both legal teams would have to contend with. The question of intent loomed large in public discussions. Was this an unfortunate mistake or a deliberate tactic meant to gain an advantage in the case? Without a clear answer, the debate raged on each side, pointing to selective evidence to support their view. In the midst of this uncertainty, one thing was clear. The judge's intervention had changed the trajectory of the case, setting in motion a series of consequences that would play out in ways no one could fully predict. And for Blake Lively, the challenge was not just to defend herself in court, but to navigate an increasingly complex and unforgiving landscape, where every move was scrutinized, every word was analyzed, and every decision carried the weight of potential long-term repercussions. As the dust begins to settle after the judge's pointed reprimand, one thing has become undeniably clear. This case has shifted into a new and unpredictable phase. The once carefully managed public image of Blake Lively now exists alongside a permanent record of judicial disapproval. And that dual reality will shape how every move from here is perceived, both inside and outside the courtroom. The accusations about sharing private information have opened a wider conversation about ethics, privacy, and the boundaries of acceptable conduct in high-profile disputes. And in that conversation, there is no guarantee of a favorable outcome for anyone involved. The judge's words now hang over the case like a shadow, influencing strategy, altering alliances, and reminding all parties that the rules apply equally, no matter the level of fame. As the next hearings approach, the questions grow louder. Will this reprimand be a one-time warning or the first step toward more severe consequences? Will witnesses or legal teams adjust their approach in response to the court's firm stance, or will tensions escalate further, feeding an already volatile situation outside the courthouse? The media machine shows no sign of slowing down. Every new filing, every public citing, and every carefully crafted statement is dissected for clues about what may come next. Fans and critics alike are invested in the outcome, seeing it not only as a legal battle, but as a broader reflection of how power and accountability intersect in the modern era. Whether Blake can regain her footing will depend on decisions made in the weeks ahead, decisions that must balance legal necessity with public perception. One misstep could cement this moment as the defining chapter of her career, while a carefully executed strategy could still turn the tide in her favor.